We used AI to monitor the 10 most common side effects of creatine in people over 50 years old. No supplement has grown as fast as creatine in recent years. It went from being exclusively a gym thing to becoming part of the routine of people in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s who discovered its benefits for muscle mass, cognitive function, and quality of life. The benefits are real. The problem is what comes along with them, and what the industry prefers not to mention. That's exactly why we used artificial intelligence to monitor and cross-reference scientific research focused specifically on people over 50 years old, mapping the side effects that this group faces and that rarely appear on packages or channels that want to sell you something. Because after 50, the body works differently, and what a young body absorbs without complaint can, at this stage of life, cause reactions that frighten and confuse. Just to be clear, this isn't a video to demonize creatine or anything like that. It's awareness so that you, who are thinking about using or already using creatine, know the possible side effects, what they mean, and how to deal with each one without scares. That's why today you'll see the 10 side effects of creatine, monitored by AI specifically in people over 50 years old. Before we start, please leave your name and the city where you're watching our content in the comments. We'd love to know. Effect number 1. Weight increases rapidly at the beginning. People who start taking creatine after 50 years old often face a quite unpleasant surprise on the scale. In just a few days, the needle can go up 2 to 7 pounds without any dietary change to justify it. The immediate reaction is concern, and many people want to drop the supplement in the first week thinking they're getting fat. But what's happening has nothing to do with fat accumulation. The process occurring is called intramuscular water retention, and it's biochemically expected and temporary. When creatine is stored inside muscle cells, it carries water molecules along with it, increasing muscle volume and, as a direct consequence, body weight. It's almost like filling a balloon with water instead of air. The volume increases, but the structure hasn't changed. A study published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research confirmed that this initial weight gain is predominantly water, and that, in the following weeks, the body adapts and weight tends to stabilize. For people over 50, this effect can be even more evident because slower metabolism makes adaptation slightly more delayed than in younger people, which can generate even more anxiety during the process. The big risk here is abandoning supplementation exactly during this adaptation period, wasting all the supplement's potential before the real benefits like lean mass gain, strength, and recovery can manifest. The practical recommendation is to put away the scale for at least 30 days and use the mirror as the main measure of progress. If body fat percentage hasn't changed and muscles look fuller and more defined, creatine is doing exactly what it should. Effect number 2. Blood tests can scare. This is one of the side effects that generates the most unnecessary anxiety, especially in people over 50 who usually have routine tests more frequently than younger people. The scenario is this: the person is taking creatine, has a routine checkup, and the result shows elevated creatinine in the blood. The doctor looks at that number, crosses it with the patient's age, and raises the possibility of kidney compromise. The problem is that this interpretation ignores a fundamental biochemical detail. Creatinine is a natural byproduct of creatine breakdown in the body. If you're consuming more creatine externally, your body produces more creatinine as a direct consequence of this metabolism, and not as a sign of disease. People who use creatine regularly almost always show creatinine above standard reference values in tests, which frequently generates alarm where there shouldn't be any. A follow-up study published in Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise followed athletes who used creatine for more than 5 years and found no alteration in real kidney function markers like glomerular filtration rate. The marker that really evaluates kidney health with more precision in those who supplement is cystatin C, not isolated creatinine, and this distinction is rarely made in routine medicine. The solution is simple but little practiced. Always inform your doctor that you're using creatine before having any blood test. This information completely changes result interpretation and avoids unnecessary scares, besides allowing more adequate kidney evaluation with the correct markers for your profile. Effect number 3. Cramps can appear. Many people over 50 who start taking creatine report the appearance of cramps in the first weeks, especially at night or during training, and the immediate conclusion is that the supplement is causing the problem. But creatine, in most cases, isn't the villain of the story. It's the trigger that reveals an imbalance that already existed before and simply hadn't been noticed. The mechanism works like this. Creatine increases the body's demand for water and electrolytes, pulling more liquid into muscle cells. If hydration was already insufficient, or if intake of minerals like sodium, potassium, and magnesium was below necessary levels, this new imbalance becomes evident in the form of cramps. For those over 50, this effect deserves doubled attention, as in this age range, the thirst sensation is already naturally less efficient. The body literally takes longer to signal that it needs water, which facilitates chronic mild dehydration dehydration without the person noticing in daily life. The solution isn't to interrupt creatine, but to correct hydration and nutrition habits. Increase water intake to at least 2.5 to 3 quarts per day. Include foods rich in potassium like banana and sweet potato. Ensure a good magnesium source in the diet and don't cut salt excessively, since sodium is essential for adequate muscle contraction. When these adjustments are made, cramps tend to disappear in the following weeks, and creatine can then fulfill its role without generating this type of discomfort. Effect number 4. Possible digestive discomfort. AI identified this as one of the most frequent effects in the first days of supplementation, and also one of the most avoidable when you understand what's behind it. Abdominal bloating, gas, feeling of stuffiness, and even mild diarrhea episodes are reported by a significant portion of beginning users, and the cause almost always isn't creatine itself, but the way it's being consumed. Creatine has an important osmotic property. It attracts water to the environment where it's found. When it reaches the intestine in large quantities at once, it pulls liquid to the digestive tract, irritates the intestinal mucosa, and accelerates transit. The result is guaranteed discomfort, sometimes quite intense. This is especially relevant for those who adopt the so-called loading phase, taking 21 ounces per day in the first week with the intention of saturating muscles more quickly. A study published in the Journal of the International Society of Sports Nutrition demonstrated that this protocol offers no significant advantage over continuous dose of 3 to 5 grams per day in terms of long-term muscle saturation, and causes much more gastrointestinal effects along the way. For people over 50, whose digestive system may already be more sensitive due to natural aging issues, the recommendation is even clearer. Start directly with 3 grams per day. Always take it with a meal that contains carbohydrates, as this favors absorption and reduces digestive irritation, and if discomfort persists, divide into 2 smaller doses throughout the day. Small changes in how to consume the supplement solve this problem in most cases. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notification bells. Having constant access to science-based information is what will make you progress healthily long-term in the exercise world. Effect number 5. Interaction with medications. This is a side effect that rarely appears in creatine discussions, but that AI signaled as one of the most relevant for people over 50, precisely the age range where continuous medication use is most common. The central issue is that creatine is metabolized and excreted by the kidneys, and several medications frequently used in this age range follow exactly the same path. When 2 or more compounds compete for the same kidney filtration pathways at the same time, the load on this organ increases, and this can be a problem especially for those who already have some degree of kidney compromise, even if mild and not yet diagnosed. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen and diclofenac, used very frequently for joint pain in this age range, are among the main compounds that can potentiate this overload when combined with creatine. Blood pressure medications, diuretics, and certain statins used for cholesterol control also deserve special attention. Besides kidney overload, there's the risk that creatine interferes with absorption or effectiveness of some medications when taken at the same time, which can compromise both the medicine's effect and expected supplementation results. The guidance here is direct and non-negotiable. Before starting creatine supplementation, any person who uses medications continuously, regardless of which ones, should present the complete list to the responsible doctor and evaluate possible interactions individually. There's no safe shortcut for this step. Effect number 6. The face may seem more swollen. This is an effect that AI highlighted as one that most emotionally surprises beginning users, especially over 50, when any change in facial appearance tends to cause more psychological impact. In the first 2 to 4 weeks of use, some people notice that the face seems slightly fuller, more rounded, as if they had gained weight in a localized and hard-to-explain way. What's happening is that water retention caused by creatine isn't limited to muscles. A small fraction of this water can distribute through the body's subcutaneous tissues, including the facial region, especially cheeks, and the area around the eyes. It's not inflammation, it's not fat, and it's not a sign of any disease. It's temporary water distribution. A review study published in the International Journal of Sport Nutrition and Exercise Metabolism confirmed that this redistribution is transitory and that the body tends to normalize water distribution after the initial adaptation period, which generally lasts between 2 and 4 weeks. For people over 50, this effect can be slightly more pronounced because the skin already has less elasticity and water retention is visually more evident than in younger faces. Controlling sodium intake throughout the day, sleeping well, and avoiding very heavy meals at night are measures that help minimize facial swelling, which is usually more visible in the morning right after waking up. The good news is that as the body adapts to creatine's presence, this effect progressively diminishes without needing to interrupt supplementation. Effect number 7. Muscles may seem hard or tense. With more water stored inside muscle cells, muscle tissue becomes literally more voluminous and dense. And this has a very specific physical sensation that can scare those who aren't prepared for it. Muscles become more rigid to touch, heavier in movement, with constant tension that isn't exactly pain, but also isn't the usual sensation the person had before starting supplementation. Think of the difference between a completely dry sponge and one soaked with water. The soaked one is firmer, more compact, less flexible. This is approximately how muscles behave in the first 2 to 3 weeks of creatine use. For people over 50, this rigidity can be easily confused with the beginning of a muscle injury or with worsening of some pre-existing condition like tendinitis or fibromyalgia, which leads many people to unnecessarily interrupt supplementation and seek treatment for a problem that doesn't exist the way it seems. It's important to understand that this effect represents no risk and tends to soften as the body adapts to the new state of muscle hydration, generally within 2 to 4 weeks. Practical measures to relieve discomfort are simple. Maintain a consistent stretching routine before and after workouts. Include joint mobility exercises and warm-up, ensure adequate hydration throughout the day, and on rest days, do short active stretching sessions to keep muscles more relaxed and responsive. Effect number 8, you get stronger before joints are ready. AI signaled this as the most treacherous side effect of the entire list, and the reason is very precise. It disguises itself as a benefit. In 2 to 3 weeks of supplementation, creatine already perceptibly increases ATP production in muscle cells, which translates to more strength, more explosion, and greater load capacity during workouts. For those over 50 who haven't felt this performance improvement for a long time, the temptation to quickly increase weights is enormous and very understandable. The problem is that muscles respond to strength stimuli in a matter of weeks, but tendons, ligaments, and cartilage, the tissues that support and protect joints, have a much slower adaptation rhythm. They receive less blood supply and regenerate more gradually than muscle tissue, which creates a dangerous window of mismatch between muscular capacity and structural capacity. A study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine showed that most injuries in weight training practitioners over 50 happen exactly in this window of accelerated strength gain, when muscle can already lift more than joints can safely support. The result can be tendinitis, joint inflammation, or more serious injuries that keep the person away from training for weeks or months. Can you imagine gaining strength with creatine and staying idle for 2 months because of an avoidable injury? The golden rule here is never increase load by more than 10% per week, regardless of how much stronger you feel. Effect number 9, hydration becomes much more important. This effect is the central link that connects practically all others on this list, and AI included it precisely for this reason. Creatine works mechanically by pulling water into muscle cells, which significantly increases the body's water demand as a whole. If before a person needed about 2 quarts of water per day to function well, with creatine this need can jump to 2.5 to 3 quarts or more, depending on body weight and level of physical activity practiced. The critical point for those over 50 is that with aging, the thirst mechanism becomes progressively less efficient. The body takes longer to emit the signal that it needs water, which facilitates chronic mild dehydration without the person noticing in daily life. When hydration doesn't keep up with increased demand from creatine, symptoms appear in cascade: headaches, cramps, fatigue, dry mouth, and urine with dark coloration. The immediate tendency is to blame the supplement, but the problem is with water, or rather the lack of it. The most practical and reliable tip is to daily monitor urine color. Light yellow means adequate hydration. Dark yellow or amber is an immediate warning sign. Distributing water intake throughout the day in frequent small amounts is more efficient than trying to compensate everything at once. And for those who train in hot or very humid environments, electrolyte replacement also becomes indispensable to maintain the balance that creatine requires. Effect number 10, drop in endogenous creatine production. This is the effect that appears least in supplementation conversations, and that AI identified as especially relevant for those over 50 who think about using creatine for long periods. The human body produces creatine naturally, mainly in the liver and kidneys, from amino acids arginine, glycine, and methionine. When the supplement is introduced continuously, the body detects that creatine levels are constantly elevated and, through a quite intelligent self-regulation mechanism, begins to gradually reduce its own endogenous production. It's as if the body said, "I'm already being supplied from outside. I don't need to spend energy manufacturing anymore." This in itself isn't a problem while supplementation continues. Levels remain adequate through external source. The problem arises when the person interrupts creatine abruptly without a gradual reduction period. At this moment, the body, which had already reduced its natural production, takes weeks to resume the previous synthesis rhythm, and in this interval, available creatine levels fall below what they were even before any supplementation began. The practical result is a perceptible drop in disposition, strength, and training performance, which can last 2 to 4 weeks and is frequently interpreted as a sign that the body became dependent on the supplement. For people over 50, this drop window can be especially felt since endogenous synthesis capacity is already naturally lower in this age range compared to younger adults. The recommendation is always to withdraw creatine progressively, reducing dose over 2 weeks before stopping completely, giving the body enough time to resume natural production without generating this temporary deficit. Now, an important warning. There are 10 common mistakes that people who take creatine usually practice, which can make this great supplement cause really bad reactions to your body. Basically, these mistakes turn creatine into poison. If you want to discover what they are and how to avoid them, we left a video appearing right now on screen showing each one better. Don't miss checking it out. Thank you for watching until here, and may God bless you, my friend.